Whiskey Throttle Spotlight is brought to you by Yamaha, the leaders in the power sports industry. Join the Blue Crew today. By Nihilo Concepts, boost your bike's performance, reliability, and aesthetics with Nihilo products. Flow Vision, high-performance goggles and eyewear. And by Complete Racing Solutions, your one-stop shop for human performance and wellness.
Dude, that's a fun bike. Man, kind of first thing that that jumps out is it reminds me of how fun these were, like how good these Suzukis turned, just how easy they were to ride, you know. Super strong motor, really clean running. I know Mitch was worried maybe it would be lean. It was perfect, really, the jetting and stuff. Good. Really good suspension, typical like race stuff where if you're just cruising around, it would, yeah, it's firm. It would almost hurt my wrists. But then as I started riding it harder and pushing, it's like it gets softer and softer the harder you push it. Sure. That's totally standard for like good race stuff. So just the way those things go. What was the story with this bike? Where'd you get this thing and why this bike?
I mean, Suzuki's always had a factory feel, right? Coming up through the ranks, you see these gold rims, you see the yellow, it just has a nice pop to it. Right around high school, we had a couple of 05, 06 Suzukis. So oddly enough, when Pastrana would be in town filming, you know, the original Nitro Circus stuff, we'd let him borrow the bike to do flips and hopefully not break it.
That was a terrible idea.
Terrible idea, but good handling bike. I mean, they live up to their name. It was fun to have one. And this was kind of the last two-stroke that our family had before we jumped on the four-stroke bandwagon. Yeah. So as far as family goes, we owned one. I rode one. High school was done. It was great. And then we had to sell the bike, you know, to pay off some medical stuff. And we were always kicking ourselves because of how well it handled and just the fun we had on the bike. So as far as a personal level, that's why I wanted to find one. And then if you think back the history of our sport, the year that everything switched from two strokes to four strokes was that summer of 05.
Yeah.
Ricky won that last Supercross title, switched to the 450, ran to Nations, everything else. So when we were coming up with the theme of this project, I'm like, you know what, instead of just doing a replica build, why don't we pay a little bit of tribute to Team USA? That summer he ran the 101 plate, and it just so happens that you and I share a sentimental value to 101. So it has themes from his 05 factory bike, themes from the Team USA bike, and littered throughout are enough factory parts that just pay homage to Suzuki as a whole.
Yeah, it's cool. This brings back all kinds of memories for me, because I remember Ricky being so good on this RM250 that year.
Yep. In
Supercross. Then I remember him crushing everybody at the Motocross of the Nations, and he actually, funny enough, battled a bit with Ben Townley, who is another number 101. So there's a lot of things that tie in with this that just make it super fun for me. And you know what, another thing that stood out for me on this, you know, a lot of the old two-strokes feel fat and kind of wide, and they just have an old feel. Dude, this thing is so thin. You know, it feels like a modern bike. They could put this back into production right now, and it'd be a great bike. What are some of the bigger things that you did here? The detail you go into is wild. Just give us a few of the bigger breakdown things.
Sure. I mean, obviously, you try and find factory parts, you know, era correct parts, and sometimes it's difficult, right? I mean, I don't live in California, but building relationships to find some of those sought after parts is something that's taken time. So oddly enough, over a 5-year span, the suspension's a big one, right? When the Rockstar Suzuki team switched over to KTM, you know, Blake Wharton, Davey Millsaps, I believe it was Doc Wobbles over in Europe, bought several of those Suzukis. So I was able to procure the front forks and the rear shock from Blake Wharton's actual bike. And then I sent that over to JB Covington, the JBI suspension. We sent everything back to Japan, refurbished it, went through it, redid the coil, and he did some of the internals. And
that was for Kashima coating, or what?
Kashima coating, DLC, just making sure some of the, I mean, you can see some of the wear and tear on the top and even the fork lugs. The billet, we didn't touch. Even though I wanted to polish it and make it nice, this came from a race bike.
Yeah.
We just fitted it, obviously, to this, made sure everything synced up, and then Luke and Bones, they worked with a gentleman over at Showa to get some of the other internals. So minus a few other factory bits, I mean, and the billet shock body, this is as close to work stuff from that era as I could get. So updated the suspension, that was, you know, numero uno. The wheels, interesting enough, these rims are from the JGR Suzuki team.
Okay. So you were stealing from all kinds of defunct teams and wherever you could find it, huh?
100%. So able to get the hoops on there. The motor work was done by Jim Hassaker. We went through, replaced everything OEM or better, and then we sent everything out, was micro polished, did the port work, the head work, you know, a different piston. But we just had to make sure that everything was dialed and up to snuff. Because as some people may or may not know, Suzuki motors, transmissions can be a problem. And if you know, break apart, finding a spare is tough. Really hard.
Yeah. Well, I know Mitch built you this pipe and this silencer special. They didn't make those carbon silencers back then, except for race team guys. So lots of cool little one-off stuff that you track down. And man, I'm such a fan of the work you do. We've ridden a couple of your other bikes, and I just appreciate the work and the love that goes into them, and your passion for it, because this isn't a, you know, throw some new plastics and graphics on it and spray paint the frame here and there and go. This is a to the ground, touch every single little thing and try to make it cool. So as always, man, what a blast. Thanks for letting me play around on it. And
anytime.
Sure, a lot of fun to just show that to our folks here over at Whiskey Throttle Media. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you watching and clicking over here at Whiskey Throttle Media. We've got a lot of really cool projects, hopefully some more Spencer stuff down the road, but some neat stuff coming, lots of new content. So thank you for tuning in, and come back. We got more cool stuff coming.